Welcome back under the big top as we rejoin the circus. Last time on the Cyborg Tinkerer, Rora's hand started on fire and she went to see Gwen. Gwen turns out to be way better at seducing than Rora, and Gwen has got a galaxy-sized booty. The girls put on pretty dresses. Gwen is a jerk to Bastion, who tries to warn her about danger at the party. And Gwen is always horny. There's lots of dancing, and then the competition finally begins. We're back for Chapter 8. I'm eating chocolate. It feels like I'm making headway and not making headway at the same time with this book. But hey, at least things might actually start to happen now in Chapter 8. So apparently, even though some of the cyborgs were like, you're breaking the contract, actually it's in the contract that their employers can terminate it at any time. So basically, you can have your cyborg parts repoed at any moment without explanation.
Law said death was a release, not a punishment.
Rora thinks that somehow Gwen befriended her as like a con, as like part of this whole thing, and that doesn't make any sense. What did befriending her do? What did that gain for Gwen? Oh, we got more characters appearing. Marzana and Akio appear beside Rora. So it's not just Gwen who suffers from serious pop-in issues, it's everyone. Now we're getting on to the deadly competition, which already is like super reminiscent of the Savior's Champion. In front of Rora was a massive wooden wall with a single rope dangling in front of it. Beyond the wall, the room stretched endlessly. So they each have their own little like groups of performers, like for example, Rora is with the acrobats, I believe, and so they get to choose a representative to do each competition. But it seems like this is a really bad way, and it doesn't just seem, it is flat out is a really bad way to choose your best performers, because these aren't competitions about performing. Like, you'd think you would have competitions within each group to choose the best acrobat, the best animal tamer, the best high flyer. But no, everybody's being pitted against each other to pick the best in these deadly competitions, and that just doesn't seem logical. But of course, I don't think we come to this book for logic. I'm really curious, because I know that Jenna and Meg were friends, and I say were because I don't know if they are anymore. I'm curious when in the writing process Meg decided she wanted to add deadly competitions to her horny cyborg book. Did it have anything to do with Jenna and her deadly competitions in her book? I just am very curious which of these ladies came up with the deadly competitions thing first, or did they come up with it separate of each other and it just so happened to be? I find that kind of dubious. I wish I had been a fly on the wall. See, this is the agility test, and he even says, the guy who's running it says, brute strength will do you no good here, nor wit nor sleight of hand. You must be nimble and quick. So like, are you just trying to eliminate all of your performers who are like strongmen or magicians or something like that? Why are you having this blanket competition for everybody when you're supposedly trying to find the best? Obviously, I'm pretty sure they don't actually care about finding the best. I think they're just trying to thin the herd so that they can steal back some of their cyborg parts. But like, if I was a performer, I would be very suspicious, and I would be like, no, we shouldn't participate in this because this is stupid and obviously a trap, and there are hundreds of us and we are cyborgs. We're taking over. By the way, for anyone who is wondering, well, of course, Julian, you're making all these guesses, but they're not really guesses because you've watched a read-along of the book, and honestly, I don't remember. Like, I watched a whole read-along of this book, and I think as a defense mechanism, my brain basically shut out everything except for, like, the characters' names, the smut, and that there's a dragon in it. So my guesses are in earnest. I don't remember what happens in this book at all. It is very convenient that the first test is agility, and guess what Rora happens to be good at? A lot of people are also going to be eliminated tonight, so Gwen is going to be busy repoing all of those parts. Maybe that explains why they didn't really care that she had no expertise, because, like, really all they wanted to use her for was, like, ripping cyborg parts out of people, and, like, you don't need to actually be a good cyborg tinkerer to do that, so maybe they were just like, we could have her for free, because she's dying of a brain tumor. And then when we're done with her, we can just take back her implant as well and eliminate the whole problem.
And blame it all on her, too.
And blame it on her. Rora also brings up that she can live without her implant because it's just her hand, but there are some cyborgs who can't. So, if I was these people, I would also be making sure that the ones who could be eliminated were people who could survive without their cyborg parts. Like, play this whole thing strategically. Apparently Akio is like barely a cyborg at all. His feet and ankles are reinforced with implants that aren't even visible. Which again, why didn't that happen with Rora when she broke her wrist? Why did they have to chop off her entire hand and replace it? I don't know. Medical technology in this book is very, very confusing. So even as Rora is realizing that her friends may have their parts repoed and people are probably going to die, she's still like, and if I don't do this, I'll lose my chance to perform before the Emperor. Like, girl, you still think that that is, like, what we're going for here? So, Marzana does the token, I think this is a little bit suspicious, and then Rora is just like, we have no choice but to play along. So, just in case any of us readers were incredulous, someone did mention it, but it was quickly dismissed. So the ladies slip out of their dresses because, you know, big poofy dresses will get in the way of whatever is happening, and they're in their undergarments, but we get no explanation of what those look like. Now, I'm picturing sort of Victorian undergarments because of the steampunk aesthetic, but they could be out here in bras and a thong, for all we know. I guess there are just 3 performers in Rora's group, Marzana, Akio, and her, and I don't know why. You'd think there'd be more, like, acrobats. Are they acrobats, gymnasts, whatever they are? You think there'd be more. I'm a little bit confused because it sounded like they were electing one person from each group to compete, but then all of them in her group took their clothes off and got ready to go. So are they all still going? Maybe I'm skimming too much. I just don't quite understand the rules. Maybe it'll become clear as it goes on.
Get used to disappointment.
Abercan, the one who was flirting with Gwen before, has appeared just to be a bully. I don't understand. Like, I guess we have to have a bully character. I guess the point is to reveal that Rora is also bisexual. He is very much a Jenna Moresi bully. Fortunately, there only seems to be, like, one so far, because Jenna loves to fill her book with slathering misogynists. But it's interesting that one has found its way into this book as well. And I know I'm like, comparing them a lot, but knowing that they were friends and knowing that they read each other's books, and I think they might have even been CPs, the influence is very obvious. So a watchman calls the start of the competition, and they all just have to run for that single rope and climb over it and then deal with whatever's on the other side. And I just don't completely understand how this is supposed to work. I thought that they were supposed to select a representative, but now it seems like everybody's just going for it. I just don't understand. Of course, it's a clusterfuck trying to climb the rope, because of course it is, and people are going to get crushed. Just like your performers, make a human pyramid and get over the top. Don't even use the rope. And on the other side, once again, we have a very sort of unlikely scenario where they have set up this, like, deadly obstacle course. They had time and money to set this up with, like, water below them and everything. It's like, what? How? Like, in The Savior's Champion, we have the excuse of magic. Like, literally a wizard did it. This book could do that too if it had wanted to be a fantasy instead of a sci-fi. But as it stands, it's just like, when, how, who... They just set this obstacle course up somehow, and no one noticed, and it's just like, what? And we learn that older implants can't even be submerged in water. So they will fry themselves when they fall into the water. Showering must be fun. You just have to endlessly put a plastic bag over your cyborg part. What if your cyborg part is, like, really inconvenient? Like, what if it's on your face? How do you shower?
How does it work with sweat and other bodily fluids?
Don't ask questions like that, Adam. Like, wouldn't blood also touch your cyborg part? Mm-hmm. And also, why is the Emperor afraid of these people? All he has to do is get them wet.
Squirt gun! Woo.
Yeah. Squirt gun, your problem is solved.
The Emperor himself is a cyborg. And he knows his greatest weakness is everywhere. Water.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's persecuting the cyborgs and making this big thing so that, one, people don't think he's a cyborg, And 2, once they're eradicated, they forget his greatest weakness.
See, Adam and I are going to rewrite this book so it makes sense. I'm going to make the bad guys a lot more intelligent and sneaky, and he's going to make the Emperor also more intelligent and sneaky, quite frankly. Remember when I have a video about writing villains, my more recent video about writing villains, and I talked about making your villains have a smart plan? I feel like that's important. Now, it's not all implants that can't go underwater, it's just the older ones. Rora doesn't even know how old her hand is. We get the very thin explanation that they are just recycling old circus sets for this, but I'm like, no. You just had like a giant pool that you could fill with water. So this is just eliminating a lot of cyborgs right away. This isn't a competition of agility. This is a competition of who has newer parts. Which again, with my thinking of what the mistress is doing, makes a lot of sense. If she wants to harvest the newer parts, figure out who's got the newer parts so that you can harvest those, because those are the ones that you want, and everybody who's got the old parts is gonna French fry in the water and eliminate themselves. Okay, but like, why call this a competition of agility? They just have to swim and see who doesn't die. That's the end of the chapter, is just Rora diving into the water. That's it, we're on to chapter 9. I think I'm probably done with this book for today because my brain is melting, but I'll probably read a little bit more tomorrow and really just try to plow through this thing. I don't know why these ladies keep writing such long books. Jenna does it as well. There's a glossary at the back of this book, I just realized, as if we need to know, like, everything is so simple in this book that none of this needs to be explained. So anyway, that's enough of that. I'm gonna put that aside, and I'm gonna go do something else with my day. Possibly I'll write my own book. That'll be fun. Oh, my skin looks like shit this morning, but whatever. We're just gonna read some of this anyway, alright? Just don't look at my face. You don't need to look at my face, it's unimportant. Also, is it a sign that you've been a YouTuber for a really long time when you have a favorite memory card? Because my favorite memory card just like died and I'm kind of sad about it. We've been through so much together. Alright, back to reading this. The real reason we're here. We're on chapter 9. I have chai. Rora was leaping into some icy water, about to find out, just like in a very immediate way, whether her implant is the waterproof kind or not. Also, the water is apparently very deep. Again, where did they get this giant pool of water? They just had this laying around somewhere? But lucky her, even though her implant is a little bit of a piece of crap, it does seem to be the waterproof kind. So hey, small favors. She's not being zapped to death. Here's another little redundancy we're gonna point out. Obviously I don't point out all of these, but her teeth chattered so hard against each other. You just say her teeth chattered against each other. Of course they're chattering against each other. What else would teeth chatter against? Little things like that you guys know I love to point out are little ways that you can clean up your book and also make your readers not feel like you think they're stupid. Rora comes across the floating corpses of some of her fellow performers, one of which name she didn't even bother to learn, and she's very upset by that. But fortunately, all Rora has to do to get over her sadness over seeing the floating corpses of her co-workers is to remember Gwen and how hot she looked in that dress. I will say that Meg is also not as good at describing the physical sort of situation of the character, like I think she found a ramp and she's climbed up it and now she's like out of the water or getting out of the water or waiting still. It's really difficult for me to picture the action. And Jenna is definitely better at writing that. I think Meg could get there. Again, I think Meg just needs more practice. Rora's thoughts are all over the place. Like, she's really struggling with her motivation. At first she was like, I want to do this so I can kiss that pretty tinkerer, and now she's thinking about how much she wants a patron. And it's good for your characters to have a motivation for doing something, but I almost feel like at this point, her motivation is like, I just need to get out of this, like, swimming pool, and now there's like tubes that they have to climb up, if I'm picturing it correctly. Just like vertical tubes that you have to like, I don't know, wall jump your way up or whatever. She keeps thinking occasionally about how, like, oh, this was from an old act. These tubes are from an old set. This ramp was like a bike ramp from one of our acts. And I'm just like, saying that occasionally does not help me understand truly where all of this stuff came from. Maybe a little bit more description of how they were originally used would be helpful. Like, the bike ramp is pretty self-explanatory, but where did the giant pool come from where you can't even touch the bottom? And why are there enormous tubes? What performance was this for? I'm thinking of them like little ferrets crawling through tubes, because ferrets love tubes. They have 3 tubes to choose from.
One of them leads to the castle at the center of the labyrinth, and the other one leads to certain death.
Rora picks the middle one, where she can see that there's somebody in there near the top who appears to be stuck in some way. Not dead. At first I thought they were dead, but now they just appear to be stuck, and she's decided to go up that one instead of dealing with the obviously like alive and moving people in the other 2 tunnels for some reason. The person she finds at the top is Thaniel, who I think was the guy whose thumb Gwen was trying to fix by popping his hand off. I don't know if he ever got his hand back. He might be trying to do this with only one hand, which would be rude. But of course he's being grumpy, because that's his personality trait, even though she's like, I'm gonna try to help you get out so we can both get out. I'm really confused how anyone is situated in this tunnel. It seemed like it was vertical, so like she would have to be like back against one wall, legs braced against the other wall, and so would he. But like now she's able to like punch him in the back and stuff like that, so how is he situated? We're getting very few visuals. And he keeps being like, we can't go out, I won't come out of this tube, and she never thinks to ask, like, can he see something above them that she should be concerned about? She's just like, no, we're both getting out, and we're going out the top. And I'm like, maybe you should ask him why he doesn't want to come out. There's like a brief harrowing situation where she gets him unstuck, like poo from the honey tree. Then she starts to fall back down, but oh, he grabs her because, you know, she got him unstuck, and meaningful or touching or something. I don't know if this is going to come back. I hope this does, because they're like, this doesn't make us friends, but you know, the whole frenemies thing is always fun to play with.
Get used to disappointment.
And I guess there's nothing at the top that he was trying to warn her about. He was just being vague about, like, I'm never getting out of this tunnel, because he was just stuck. But they have come to another pool of water, and above it are, like, gymnastic rings, so they can swing across. This is just making me think of that, like, American Ninja Warrior or whatever that show was, with the obstacles and the swinging foam things and everything. That's what this feels like. You know, they fall in the water, they have to swim back over and do the last obstacle again, and it's just like, why? And then I guess Meg got sick of describing the obstacles, because then it just says, Rora moved in a fog through several more obstacles, all of which were recycled pieces or props from former shows. We cut straight to the final one, so I don't even know how many she had to go through to get to the final one. Here we've got more signs of Jen Moresi again. Abraken says that he killed one of the other actors. Why? By the way, the final thing is just another climbing competition, and Rora is, like, kind of winning. It's just her and Abraken, the bully guy, who is like, I killed someone. I almost wonder if this was a suggestion from a CP or a beta who was like, she needs someone specific to be in competition with, so give her a bully that she has to, like, be motivated to beat. And I'm like, it's not really working, because it feels very, very forced. Oh, Giorgio is here. She already has been through her entire list, her little Rolodex of motivations in this competition. 1, I want to kiss the pretty girl. 2, I want to get a sponsor. And now 3, I want to beat this guy. And it's like, just let her focus on one. Give her, like, a laser focus on one of the things that she wants to do. Maybe it could be kiss Gwen. Or to have word with Gwen about whether Gwen is in on this. You know, like, were you lying to me? Like, give her one very clear focus instead of jumping around between all of the 3. Especially not this bully one, because it is by far the weakest. So Abraken wins by a little bit. I don't know how Gwen got so far in the lead, because, like, she started out at the back, and it was never really indicated that she was going any faster than anyone else, but suddenly she was second place. And then Abraken beat her by a little bit and called her a dyke again, just in case we forgot that he was a bully from page to page. And then we're on to chapter 10. So I'm gonna at least turn off the camera, and then I might come right back to you, but we'll see where this falls in the range of episodes. Alright, we're back for chapter 10 of the Cyborg Tinkerer. We're back with Gwen after Aurora just did her little swimmy swim obstacle course. So, like, we're back with Gwen, and she's just pacing around with the other techies waiting for the performers to come back from their death traps. Celeste had disappeared with the show management team, but, like, knowing that this book has a tendency of characters appearing beside other characters, then I just picture her disappearing. She could still be in this room. Gwen's, like, visual frame rate is so bad. She also says where the performers had vanished, so again, as soon as somebody gets far enough away from Gwen, she just can't see them. That's what I picture. Gwen is talking to Bastion, and she's like, why did you warn me and not anybody else? Which is a great question, because what was she gonna do? She was not actually in danger at all. And he just says, I don't know. And that's all the answer that we're given, so glad we don't have to come up with a motivation for him. Aurora comes out along with Abercan and immediately, like, pukes all over the floor for several long moments, so she pukes for a while. I guess maybe that's supposed to be a reaction to have seen her dead coworkers or something. I was right about Gwen. She just doesn't see people until they're right next to her. So she goes over to Aurora and is like, are you okay? And then it says, Bastion materialized at Gwen's side. They were just talking to each other. You don't have to be like, where did he come from? They have a separate healer. He's called a healer, not a doctor or a medic. He's called a healer, which again, kind of reminiscent of Jenna's book. I know I keep pointing that out, but, like, there are some very real similarities. So they have one of those, but I guess he doesn't do the mechanical parts, but then why doesn't he at least help Gwen out? Because her job is, like, half mechanical and half biological, I guess you could say, because she has to deal with the mechanics of the implants, but also how they interact with human bodies. So, like, why isn't the healer helping her with that? And now another rule of this damn confusing competition is brought up. They won first place, or they, first and second place, and so they won't be placed in the lottery. Therefore, you will both move on to the second round of competition. So, okay, first it seemed like you had to appoint somebody from your group to go through the thing. Then it seemed like everybody had to go through the thing, and only the winners made it out. It didn't matter who you appointed from your group. And now, everybody has to go through the thing, and those who get out first don't have to get into a quote-unquote lottery to see who will be eliminated. So what was the point of appointing someone as your representative if that's never a part of the thing? I'm so confused. This competition, it doesn't make any sense.
What does it mean? What does it mean?
Bastion takes her into the extraction room where she gets to get to her job of violently ripping cyborg parts off of the losers.
It's a thankless job, but somebody's got to do it.
Again, this makes no fucking sense. So a few minutes later, they drag somebody in. I don't know how many people, like, need to win first, second, third, and fourth place who get to be out of the lottery, or just first and second. I'm so confused. But now, already they have contestants coming in who are considered to not be winners, or maybe they've already done the lottery. Like, how much time has passed? And a woman is being dragged in to get her cyborg parts ripped out, and she says, I can be useful, I can improve my act. Your act wasn't tested. You were put through a frigging obstacle course which might have nothing whatsoever to do with your act. It doesn't matter how good your act is, because that had nothing to do with anything. A lot of cyborg hands and arms. Although it says, a cyborg hand that extended to her elbow, which I take to mean the hand and the arm, but it could mean that she just has a really big cyborg hand. Again, I'm curious why they picked Gwen to be their cyborg tinkerer / repo man. Because, like, was there something about Gwen that made her the optimum choice for this? Was there nobody else? Maybe somebody a little bit more sadistic who might enjoy ripping apart, like, for example, the Mistress, who can make new cyborgs, so why doesn't she take apart the old ones? She seems like she would enjoy it. She's clearly evil. And it's not like the Mistress is busy. She's here. She's here to watch. Giorgio is here again. She's just hanging out with me today. She comes and goes. She pops in, she says hi, she leaves. So we remember that Gwen's eye lets her see, like, inside cyborg implants, so she knows, she tells the Mistress that she can't detach the arm because it's too integrated into the muscles and tissues, and this person might bleed out if she tries to take it off. But It might be nice to just like remind the audience a little bit here that that's how she knew that, because I had to stop and think, how does she know that? And then I was like, oh yeah, her eye. But you might be like, give her a second to scan this lady with her eye first. Very confusing. So Gwen is like, no, I won't do it, and then they start to beat her up, which doesn't make sense, because if they need her to do this, they need her to be, like, functioning. But then the mistress says, don't fool yourself, I don't need you. Even as a surgeon or a scientist, I am a far better tinker than you will ever be. But I don't have time for such trivial matters. So, like, if you don't need her, and you're better than her, and you're a psychotic bitch, just do it yourself. You're standing right here, you're gonna watch, you clearly have time.
Alright, in the book's defense, she says, I don't have time. This is their first big test of this lady, so she's here to supervise her and keep her in line.
And then later she'll be off doing other things.
Indeed.
I don't know. If I was the mistress, I would just do it myself. So much easier. Skip the middleman. No, she wasn't. This is the contradiction. So Gwen is, of course, thinking it over because she's been warned if she doesn't cooperate, they will repo her eyeball and also, like, the parts they put into her brain because of the cancer. Although, again, this feels like an empty threat because the mistress just said that she doesn't have time for this, so she's just making threats, though. But then Gwen is just thinking about it, and it says, she'd been so damn confident in her skills and her ability to learn a completely different job. No. That is not what we were told. In that chapter, she was not confident in her skills, did not believe that she was going to learn this job, frequently spoke up to say, I don't think I can do this, but now all of a sudden she was very gung-ho. This is the first time we hear that Gwen did a little bit of first aid on her crewmates following pirate attacks. It seems awfully convenient that we're mentioning it like just exactly now. You'd think it would have come up a bit earlier. So we just have Gwen just chopping this lady's arm off. Fairly standard. Lots of blood. Blood everywhere. Blood, blood, blood. She didn't ask for all the tools she needed beforehand, so like the guys come in at the end and she's like, oh yeah, I need something to cauterize with and I need something to stitch it up with, and like she sends them out after she's already chopped this lady's arm off and she's bleeding all over the table. Again, I know that the mistress does not care if these people die and in fact wants them to, but perhaps Gwen could have asked about like blood transfusions or something, because this lady is just like bleeding all over the fucking place, but I'm sure it's fine. And then they just bring in more, and so she just goes full Repo Man from Repo the Genetic Opera and just chopping out bits off of people.
Harvesting the kidneys for the fall, saving up the livers in the fridge.
Gwen is happy that everybody that she repoed from seems to have lived, at least for right now. But, so she's like, okay, cool, I'm glad I didn't have to operate on anybody who needed their implant to live. And I'm like, yes, but several of those people probably died when they fell in the water earlier, so they're still dead. Here's something that could have been interesting. Gwen reminds us that her family's staff, at least, were murdered in front of her when she was a child. I think that was Gwen, because she was remembering the hardships of growing up on Orthodox. And it would be interesting to get a little flashback here of her being like, here's the blood and gore that I witnessed then versus the blood and gore that I'm witnessing now. But no, we're just like reminded that she had seen violence as a child. And this comes out the fuck out of nowhere. Now she had to protect her new family, her cyborg family. These are at best her coworkers, and she barely knows them. These are not her family by any stretch. Again, I feel like Meg wants to get to certain plot points too quickly, and she doesn't want to put in the work to get to those plot points. Like, you have to wait and make this moment feel really special where the character finally realizes that they have a new family, and instead it's just plopped in here in chapter 10. It's just not working. Practice. Meg just needs practice. She's too eager to get to scenes like the pretty princess dress-up ball and moments like found family, and she needs to just chill. Something that I have heard people say if they're trying to praise this book is they're like, it has good pacing. I think a lot of people believe that good pacing just means the book moves fast. Pacing is not about the speed at which the book moves. It can be, but it's not always. It's about the rhythm at which the book moves. Good pacing should feel effortless, should feel logical. All of the beats should hit in all the right emotional places. That's good pacing. This book does not have that. I didn't want to start marking when she has to repo, with my colored stickers because I want to see how many times she repos parts versus how many times she has sex. I think I'm going to use the plot twist one for when she repos parts. We still haven't had more sex though. We had first chapter and then nothing. But we're on to chapter 11. We're making it. We're getting through. I can't wait until I'm like halfway through this book and I can start editing the chapters for you all to watch. Because it's kind of, this first part is kind of boring where I'm just filming and I don't have any product to put out for you guys yet. But we'll get there soon. I'll see you guys next time.
You're in my world now, not your world. And I got friends on the other side. He's got friends on the other side.
Friends like My 96, Afra, Melissa, AC, Swamp Goblin Waifu, Sophia, Merween, Kit, Hidden Glade, Light Julie, Belle, and Sophie, Ray, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Irene, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, Lisa, Sarah, and Lennox. Whew, I have so many friends I'm gonna run out of room on the other side.
It's a thankless job, but somebody's got to do it. Peeling off the tissue inch by inch, skinning off the muscles.